and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Coming tonight? We're seeing on the approval of the agenda, a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion. Second.
Motion, got a second, Kevin. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment. This time we take a few minutes to have public comment.
Yeah, for the past year, we've been calling dispatch because kids are in there at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. 2 weeks ago, I got knock on my door, found out it was one of our local officers, and he mentioned, are you the one that made the phone call? And I said, yes, it is. Yes, I did. He goes, well, hate to tell us, but we can't do nothing about it anymore. We're not responsible. And he said, as the private owned land, the school district owned it. Okay. So I went to Dave Rowe and I talked to him, and he said, yes, as a private owned property, the school district owns it. Which means you guys are responsible to get the kids out of there after 9 o'clock. So my next question, who wants to be the responsible person to get a phone call when kids are in there at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night? Fran, you're the superintendent, would you like to get phone calls? They're gonna be really surprised how many phone calls there is after 10 o'clock. About a month ago, sleeping, we get waken up by kids outside playing basketball. I turn around, I look at my alarm clock, 11:15. Not too happy. So I don't know who wants a phone call at 11:15 because I gotta get up. So I gotta get up, get dressed, go out there and chew their ass, kick them out of there. So I figure this is the only time I'm gonna get any sleep and peace and quiet because I'm not gonna wait 20 minutes, half hour waiting for the sheriff to show up. So probably somebody here is going to have to be responsible getting the kids out of there after 9 o'clock. Because the cops aren't going to do it no more. It's not their responsibility, it's your guys' responsibility now.
Okay.
But it's gotta be locked.
As far as I care, this thing gets shut down at 8 o'clock because 9 o'clock doesn't mean nothing for the kids and padlocked. These kids apparently running that basketball court. They're telling you guys what time they're leaving. I know there's other people that want to be here, but they have to work. They're getting tired of this too now.
To be honest with you, I haven't heard anything on it.
We'll talk to Dave Rowe.
I know, we'll have to look into that. I
Yeah.
thought that was already discussed with the city when all this came about, when you were here about a year ago or so.
That was a year ago, yeah.
Yeah.
We were told to call dispatch so they can keep a record of it, how many times there was a complaint on
Right.
that basketball court. 2 weeks ago, I had the local officer tell me they're not gonna be responsible anymore because, I don't know, they're getting sick of getting these calls in the county, but they're not gonna be responsible. They said it's your guys' responsibility to get these kids out of there.
Okay.
Did you talk to Dave or did you talk to the?
I talked to Dave Rowe.
And he's the one who said it?
He's the one who told it because I had to make sure I got my facts straight before I came here.
Okay,
But
I can call
Okay,
Dave tomorrow
well-
because I was under the assumption that it was going to be treated like a city park.
Right.
And so
right,
I can,
until they find out it's privately owned. It's like if somebody was on my property, they can't kick them out.
We'll
Well,
get with,
Publicly owned.
it's
is
publicly
what it
owned,
is.
it's not privately
It
owned.
is not
Well, that's-
privately
that's
owned.
It's not, and that, well, I mean, we'll have to get some clarification on it,
Okay,
with
I'm
Dave,
just telling what he
so.
said, 'cause
Well, I'm
I-
assuming we have your,
Shouldn't be any different than a public.
no, we'll have to get a hold of you, we can put out something on it, Fran, once you find out
yep,
from
I
there.
guess I'm gonna add to that too. I live right across the road from there, and I could leave at 5:30 in the morning, don't get home till 9:30, 10 at night from work, and I gotta sleep, you know. And my daughter's and that, and it's loud. And the kids are there, like he says, at all times hours, and it's getting bad. I think at 8 o'clock, locked up, you know. I understand the kids gotta have somewhere to go and do something.
Mhm.
I totally understand that, I'll deal with that, but I think 8 o'clock would be a good time to, you know.
Once school gets out, just like last year, they're gonna be out there at 11 and 11:30 at night, because they don't have to get up in the morning. They don't care. You're running that basketball court.
Well, well, Chad, like I said, just first that it's been brought up to my attention. I don't know if Corinne's gotten any calls from anybody.
No.
I haven't got any notification on it. So if you've been contacting them and they, like I said, we haven't heard anything on it. We were under the assumption, as you know, you were here last year when we discussed this. The agreement was they were gonna take care of it, just like if it was a park. So we'll have to get with them and then we'll bring it up at the next meeting for sure,
For
but we'll
some
get.
reason, 2 weeks ago, it got changed.
Yeah,
They
we'll
weren't
find
able
out,
to-
because they didn't discuss it with, I know they didn't talk to me, and I don't know if they discussed it with Corinne at all, so,
And the board did move to have the closing time at 9 o'clock.
yeah.
So that's already been board action.
But the only
Right.
thing is, they don't read the
They're-
sign.
They're not,
Yeah.
but
Gotta be locked.
it's.
Yeah, it's gotta be locked, because they
What
just
about-
keep coming
What about
back.
11 o'clock at night? Nothing happens to them. Like I said, they're running it, they're telling you guys what time they're gonna leave.
Well, like I said, we'll have to make a correction, take care of it, so.
Yeah, that's fine, I'm just bringing it to your.
No, I'm glad you did, because otherwise we wouldn't know about it.
Right, the only other thing, I'll make this real quick, but I hope you guys got some really good liability insurance on that basketball court, because you are getting teenage kids, they are climbing them basketball hoops and sitting on the very top of them, while their friends throw them the basketball, and all they have to do is
Pop 'em
drop
in.
it right straight down. It's gonna take one kid to fall, get seriously hurt, and there's gonna be a lawsuit, because they're on a private, because you guys own it. Just something else to bring up to you too, I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I just know it's stuck twice when I was out there one time. So, just in case it happens, you're kind
No.
of.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up, we'll address the issue. Did you have anything else, sir?
No, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
It doesn't keep us from sleeping, we don't have to get up at a certain time, but that is an obnoxious noise at night. We can hear it from our porch and we're a block and a half down the street. If we sit out on our front porch, we can hear that continual dribbling up there, basketballs. I can't imagine having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and this noise outside of a house 25 feet away. It does need to be addressed.
Okay.
We realize that the kids have to have something to entertain themselves, and that we don't have a problem with. However, bedtime is bedtime. Lock the thing up.
Okay. Is there any other comments?
No, that's.
Okay. Appreciate you coming, taking the time, thanks for coming in.
Yep.
We'll get into it, get something resolved. Thanks again. Okay.
They're supposed to sign in when they come to a meeting or introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I will ask Sue Ferris. Okay, so it's the Ferris house.
Yeah, they should identify themselves.
They're the Ferris house, and then it's
Just so
Megan
they know
Knudsen,
the
stepdad. And then Rick and
Because they might be from Rushford.
new Mrs. Rick Guywood.
Yeah.
Well, I know the two of them for sure.
I won't make you-
Denise.
Who's the other guy?
I don't know.
Which one?
Anyway, so, moving right along, consent items. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
I would ask that we pull the resignations off and just treat it separately following the consent items.
Okay. So I have approval of the consent items, 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Gary, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent item, the resignations. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Second by Joe, discussion?
I'd just like to take this time, I don't know I know the reason for one of the resignations, not the others, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank these people for having served our district well, presumably for a number of years. There's always organizational memory that goes when we lose people, and so I don't know whether you've had a chance to understand or to learn or see if there's anything we can gain from the people that are leaving us. you've brought that up before, Kevin.
Yeah, the exit.
Yeah.
Good or bad, just so you're using it as an opportunity to be aware. And I just, some of these folks have served the district for a short period of time. I don't know, how long has Diana been with us?
About 9 years, eight
Yeah,
and a half.
8 or 9 years, and Justin's been with us 8 years. It's a good investment of time, so I want to thank them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
And I'd like to say a big thank you to Justin. When he started in his role, it was a really kind of scary time for me on the school board, and he just did such a spectacular job. And even though I had to kind of consider him as the head of schools and have him in this situation of not being able to trust him per se, because he was really representing K-12, I did trust him. So everything he did was with our school's best interest in mind. I'm gonna miss him.
Anybody else? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Discussion items? MNBA update, John?
And John is online.
Where are you, John?
Is he there?
I heard him earlier.
Yeah, we did a sound check before.
Is it quiet now?
Maybe he went home.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm up and gave you the green light here. So if at any point you can't hear me or something isn't coming through or you have a question and want me to stop talking, just raise my hand. If you're the one at the computer, just raise your hand and start typing in there. I'll just be watching that as well. But I did shut off, so I'm not watching the board meeting anymore. What's going on? So my piece today, I just wanted to give a little update and review of how MBA testing went for an MBA. And my niece is right in the room. So she was as involved, if not even more than me throughout the whole process. So certainly she can speak and answer any questions if there are any. But I'm just going to actually throw Lisa Busey, like I said before, if you ever want to interject, feel free. But I'll just go through a couple points here and we'll have questions at the end. But what I wanted to cover was just, what we did last year, kind of the changes that we made from last year, to hopefully make this year a little bit more smoothly, and then talk about the process this year, how it did go, and some feedback from the staff, what their thoughts were, and then share some preliminary results with you guys. And then we'll have a little time for questions at the end. Sure. All right, changes from last year. So last year was the first year for both Lisa and me to have anything to do really with testing outside of maybe proctoring ourselves or getting some of the training ourselves. So last year we were both new to it and did get a lot of help from people that had their hands involved. But things changed every year, and last year, it was our first year and the first year using Pearson as an online testing provider. So in some ways there wasn't a lot of help that we could get, with that and how some of it would work. So it was kind of trial by fire, and at times last year we for sure felt like we were getting burned, but we made it through. And so our goal at the end of last year was to make this year a little bit less people on ourselves. So I think we did a pretty good job of doing that, and our two main points that I think we focused on was just communication, both the teachers, just me and the families, letting them know when and where they could be testing a little bit earlier than last year. And use some frustration and give them time to plan. That was something we heard that we didn't do as great last year. And then teacher training, tried to make that a little bit better so that they were more prepared. Day of testing went better. And then another thing that was changed from last year is Pearson dramatically improved their site. So I don't know how many of you recall, but MB had to actually postpone testing statewide, so it wasn't just MNBA or Houston locally, it was all over the state. With the Pearson site itself last year crashing, and some days, students would log in, but then not able to finish tests or it wasn't saving them. So it was just a nightmare. And for us, and other online schools, I imagine too, it was a bigger problem than even locally, because if you're local, you just have your kids not go to the computer lab that day and just take 2 days off and then kind of start the rotation up again in a couple days. But we had computers moving all over across the state, and families driving 15 minutes to about an hour to get to some locations, and so to reschedule all of that, it was a lot, and so that was very stressful on all of us. So this year with the Pearson site update, that it really helped to know a little bit more about that. But this year, like I said, we did earlier communication with the families. I think Lisa and I and others in the office were just a little bit more prepared with what we wanted to communicate and when, and timeline for that, and stuff took pretty well. So I think the communication got out there to families, and we hit them with lots of communication. So hopefully it wasn't too much, but in this area, we really wanted to do more communication rather than less. So we hit them up with a K-mail and an email saying, hey, look for a letter coming with exact time and dates, but basically here's the window where you're going to be expected to travel a little bit and do some testing, so just be on the lookout for that. Then they came up with the actual physical letter, and then had teachers and people in the office were also calling to kind of get RCPs and make sure that they were committed to go to testing. So that was, I think, we improved there, and that went a little bit better. We improved teacher training, which was, in my opinion, because I had to do this part. I think it got a little better. I tried to do similar to what happened last year, but this year there were a couple things that just went better. I knew a little bit more of what I was doing. And so in my training that I did with the staff, I did one in an Illuminate session with just like we hold our staff meetings, which is basic teacher training and proctoring and the expectations that all teachers and all staff need to do when they're proctoring tests. And then within the Pearson site itself, there was actually some required training in there that they needed to do, which was really nice because that enabled me to know that they could log in and that their access to the site worked. And then we completed that training in there. And then Shetty was able to check and confirm that the teachers had really gone through all of that. So that was a nice piece. And then we had a professional development day the week right before testing actually started. So the timing of that was great. We were all face-to-face up here in the city and met, and then I did an in-person training, really went over everything again, but covered Pearson and what they needed to be doing, the data testing, and answered a lot of questions. So, and our site for PD was a lot better. We had a bigger projector. Everybody could hear me and see everything really well. So again, a lot of that wasn't me necessarily being any better, but the venue worked, and I think the training was delivered better, where we're able to see what was expected and what was going to happen. So that was an improvement, and I did get that from the teachers as well. They felt that they were more prepared and knew what they were doing. So that's good. The new computer handoff plan. So what we did last year, and I know they did it the year before. Lisa and I were really involved, and I don't know how many years prior to that, it was just that one or a couple, but in previous years we had basically started testing in the northern region of the state, and then just had the computers kind of filtered down through central Minnesota and the Twin Cities area, and then the southern region, and just kind of a couple weeks of that testing, and then when we needed to do makeup, we had to quickly figure out where the kids were that needed makeup, and then get computers back up to them. So that was a lot of really last minute. There needed to be 10 computers up in Duluth, and they were all down south, somewhere Rochester, somewhere like that, and we needed to get them up north. So this year we did something a little different, and I'm not sure that you're gonna. I don't know. I think Dan said you weren't even really going to be able to see the screen, so I don't know if you're just listening to me and not seeing it, but if you can see this, there's a little map. So what we did this year, Corinne was involved in this discussion, and Lisa and myself, and we just kind of were brainstorming, what could we do? And so the thought was, well, what if we had 3 regions going at the same time? So we sent some computers up north. We started it here, if you're able to see it, in Grand Rapids, and then just for the first 2 weeks of testing, basically had those computers travel around the state, and then still up north, but on the western edge of the state. At the same time, we had 90 computers floating around the metro area to some of the bigger sites. And then we had 25 computers down south. It started in Winona and then went all over to Rochester and ended up basically up in St. Cloud. We're close to Morris and up there. So all three of those were going on simultaneously, and then we actually left some computers behind where we knew we wouldn't need them as they had traveled west or later in the weeks. So we already had computers stationed for some of the makeup sites. So that was a lot better and went smoothly, but there was more work on the front end, but this again was able to be communicated to the teachers at our professional development days when we were all together. So they knew the plan, and they knew what teachers were at, which sites, and then basically in between the two testing dates, computers needed to go from Grand Rapids to Duluth, for example, and they just needed to connect and meet in the middle somewhere and make sure they had computers before they did that. So put a little bit more on them, but had the information up front so they were able to do that. And I think that worked a lot better for us. Another thing we did do this last year, but Lisa and I sit in we call it a war room, but it's, again, just an Illuminate session like this where Lisa and I are in all day, every day that testing is going on, anywhere in the state, and the proctors from the sites can log in, and they just, on the whiteboard here, they write names of students that were missing, or any questions that they had, they could just chat them to us, and we would help them. Some students had any issues with logging in, or the test got frozen or anything, and we could help them from our end fix it. So that was really nice and helped and seemed to work well again. And then another difference this year was just the Pearson site itself. Like I said, this year was called Pearson Access Next, so kind of version 2.0. I think after the mess they got in last year, they really beefed up their system, their program, and it really did work great. There weren't any times where we really got booted out or it froze or anything like that. So I think Pearson itself was a lot better, and that really helped. And then another difference, and I don't know if they did this locally or not, but this year we assigned students to the test sessions. So how this works, and what we did last year and this year was the same, basically create a test session, so like math third grade test, and then that's all we did last year. And then when they were at the site, the student using their username and password would log in, and then the teacher at the site would have to go to their computer and basically grant them access. Okay, good, you should be taking this test, and hit OK, and then they could start taking the test. Well, this year, we just assigned them to the test already, so a third grader was already assigned to that test. So when they just used their username and password and logged in, the test just began for them. So the teachers didn't even actually need to log in unless anything went wrong and they needed to resume the test, which Lisa and I could do from our end. But it was, again, one less thing that proctors had to worry about, and the feedback was they did like that too, because that was easy. So I think that was good. And then again, the site just being improved. I think it was just as user-friendly as it was last year, but it was all actually functional this year. Of course, next year we had some issues. All right, let's get the little math information. Feedback from staff. I haven't gotten anything formally. Typically, and we'll still do this this year yet, to put a little survey out and get something from them. But last year we had a lot of issues with sites, and this year every comment and conversation that I've had with the teacher has been positive. We did have a couple of issues, but they were all we were all able to handle them one day of testing without it being too big of a deal. So in Duluth, they gave us the wrong room, and they were on, we had two rooms, so one was on one side of campus, and that wasn't super convenient, but we got on the phone, and with the help of Shelley and Lisa in the office too, we kind of fixed that. It was a little bit delayed, but we got everything working. So again, I think all of the sites were better and more manageable. Cradle points. Our cradle points are basically like a hotspot. So like you can turn your phone into a wireless hotspot, so then computers could connect to it wirelessly and get on the internet. We leased with the 110 computers that we lease. We also had 12 of these Cradlepoint machines, which basically you could just plug in. They look like a router. You basically plug them in, screw in 2 little antennas, and then they are a mobile hotspot. So then there's a username and or a Wi-Fi name and password on the front of each of those devices. And then any computer can basically log into that instead of the local site Wi-Fi. So we had those traveling around the state as well in case the internet at the site wasn't that great. People were logging in and getting kicked out or whatever the case would be, the signal wasn't strong. They could use these Cradlepoints. They're really easy to set up. And I would say we use them close to half of the locations. Maybe not quite that many, but even in some of the sites that did have good internet, one of the days or another day or in one of the rooms but not the other room, it was nice to have this Cradlepoint where you just stick it by a window and it had really good reception and worked really well. So those were really helpful. I think the only negative and thing that we'll probably talk about, or I mean, we'll talk about a lot in planning for next year, but the main question I still have and don't really have an answer for of how to get better with is the makeups, how to have more students come to those, because these students, they obviously missed the first round when we had them scheduled, and that was closer to their home makeup since we have less sites that we're running makeup. Sometimes the driving is further for a family. But Lisa was amazing too. We tried to plan as many of those as one-on-ones or really small groups as we could and go close to the family as we could, like their public library. And we tried to do anything we could to make it available for them. But the makeup I don't know exact numbers there, but I know there were several days where we have 5 or 6 kids who had the test with one teacher in some location, and one student showed up or none of them showed up. And so it was like us was already the second attempt, and then we made even a third attempt in several cases, and sometimes got the student that many didn't. So I don't know how to get those that don't really want to come or are struggling with an illness or they have transportation issues already. There's a lot of hardships going on that are legitimate excuses, and then there are some that just don't really want to test, and I don't think make it a priority. So maybe stressing to them how important it is, we'll get them there, but that's a really tough part that we'll need to brainstorm and work at more. But outside of that, I think we shared information more upfront with families, and I didn't hear anything negative from families saying we didn't know when we were going to test and get bombarded with angry parents in that way. So again, I think that most of the feedback has been all positive. So if there is any negative and you hear it, feel free to share it. Just let them justify you do that. All right, I think that is about it. The preliminary results, benefit of online testing in Pearson, they're ready. So as soon as the students are done, we can see preliminary data. They do caution us to say that when the actual results get sent out at the end of the month or in the fall, that it could be a slightly different, but that the preliminary data can be shared. So we talked as an administrative team, a principal group, with Corinne. Basically, all of the administrators are doing the same thing here. We shared it with the staff. The staff has access; they can log in to their Pearson site and you can see how their students did, and they can be sharing that with their students and talking about it with them. And then we're letting them know that they'll be mailed out, just like locally you're doing that too. We're going to include those in the fourth quarter report. So the last piece is our participation percentage, how we did. And I don't know, are they seeing this? If you're at the computer, you just type people computer or not.
If you hit talk, we can talk to him. Do you see where the talk is?
But if you can't see this, basically what I'm just showing is, Lisa put together some numbers of our percentages, and the goal is to hit 95% participation in both reading and math. Science doesn't count quite yet. Oh, you can see it. Okay, fantastic. We do track science, but the state hasn't deemed that that's something that they really are counting yet, but it won't hurt us in any way if we don't reach the 95%. So we do keep track of those numbers, but if, a makeup student didn't get to taking science, we didn't bend over backwards to have them try to, for the time to try to get them there, like we did with both reading and math. So these numbers, I think it's pretty straightforward, but testable, so this is the total number of students. We had some that opted out, so they didn't want to test, but we subtract, the 14 from the total number here, we get the total testable number, and then the 865 is how many tested, and that worked out to just above 95%. So we were good in reading, we made it, but in math, we did not, we were just under. And I know Lisa, even last week, has been tracking down some medical exemptions and some things to try to see if we could do anything to bump that number up, another 0.5% to get us there. But we're going to make it with all of our efforts. So that is where we stand in science. We're at 88%, which again is higher than last year. I don't have that option either. I can get that if you'd like that, but it's better than what we did last year too. So moral of the story there, got reading, didn't get math. But got very close, and we tried, and we were doing all we could that last week. And the teachers were great, and we would have the office advisor go out and do a one-on-one. We're trying to get any student that said, yeah, we can test you, like, great, we'll meet you, as close to you as possible. So that's that. And I think, honestly, just my little side note, I think this is going to get more and more difficult to be reaching this 95%. Some families are just, getting fed up with testing a little bit and saying that they, don't want to test. So it's just become, I think it's always kind of pulling teeth to get people to come, but even more so in the seen that grow in the last couple of years. That changed my eyes on things a little bit. So that's all I have. Are there questions for the group, or Lisa, any comments that you wanted to say?
We can hit talk now. It looks like it's black. Okay. Can you hear us, John? John, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Do you have any questions for John?
Kevin?
Yeah, when Pearson had their issues last year, it obviously cost us a fair amount of money in terms of labor and time, at least. Was there any reimbursement from them since it was all their fault?
They reimbursed the state as far as, that's how we still have the ACT test, where our kids, we didn't have to pay to give the ACT test this year. And there were some other things that they did as kind of a nod to the state. But did the state reimburse us for our individual costs? No. I did ask, and that wasn't anything. They said, well, you have ACT tests next year.
Lucky us.
We used it.
Do you have any other questions, guys? Michael, do you have?
I always have questions.
I figured you did, so.
So are the reading, math, and science tests on separate dates?
Typically, we schedule reading and science, or reading by itself, and then math and science together, just because the math and science are shorter.
Okay.
So reading is day one.
So that's
math
two
and science
trips.
are day two. Yeah,
That's
it
2
is.
trips for families. How long does the test session take for reading?
This year was shorter than in the past. This year, we were supposed to allot 3.5 to 4 hours, and they were taking 2.5 to 3. So it's hard to plan when you don't know, the group is always going to be different. You have to allot enough time. We had several students with accommodations for extended time, so you have to plan for that.
Just seems like it's kind of a no-win, because 2
It
big
is.
tests on the same day is not a good option either. But if taking the tests, reaching a goal is important, and convenience and getting the families there is a problem, then we ought to see what we could do about that.
Well, during makeups, we did do a
Another
lot
thing
of bending of that, where we would have reading and math done on the same day.
John?
I was just going to say another thing that has been brought up is to have science on a third day. If participation for science ever really becomes measured, that will be more difficult. But I think an argument can be made that it is a lot to test at one time. But it's different. Some students took longer on the reading, some took longer on the math. But yeah, typically what Lisa said is it works pretty even. They have reading one day and then math and science the other in 2.5 hours about each.
The goals are set by the state or by us?
The participation goals?
Yeah, state.
By the state.
Okay.
And so we have to decide which edge of the sword we're going to die on. Are we going to die on the participation side or on the proficiency side? And we've decided that we'd rather split it over 2 days and try to get our proficiency as high as possible. Because in the paper, they don't publicize your participation. They publicize your proficiency, how well your kids do on the test, how many kids have met or exceeded the standards. And so we have felt that it's better to not have all the tests done in one day, because when we tried that, that didn't go well as far as the test results.
Is it the same for the local sites? The tests are on separate days?
Well, yes.
We actually have them on multiple. Reading, we do it over 2 days. We don't have them take it all in one day because, it's quite a bit of reading to do. The math we do in one day, the science we do in one day, so that's, really 4 days that we do for the 3 tests.
And elementary, it is more spread out than that.
Yeah. 2 different days, different age groups doing it at different times. So we end up using the full 2 weeks for the reading and math, and then science at a later time.
Something else that we did differently this year was scheduling the age groups together. I did a lot of management within the Testing Nirvana program that we use to get K through 5 students together, 6 through 8 students together, and high school students together in separate rooms at separate times at the same site, keeping siblings together. And with our makeups, it wasn't so much that we had students that made it one day and missed the next. It was they didn't make it at all. So we were chasing that over and over and over, trying to get them to come in at all.
And it was an uphill battle after right before we started testing, Star Trib article came out from, I think it was South St. Paul, saying that Humboldt, there it was, Humboldt, I think it was 81% of their kids opted out of testing. Opted out.
Yeah, we
And,
talked about that at one of our meetings.
yep, and I think WCCO or KARE,
That was a
CARE
big deal.
11 picked it up. And after that, I was just panicky, because I thought this is the last thing we need as far as the information going out there. And that's why we've got the opt-out numbers there.
And our opt-outs increased as testing went on. We started out with maybe 6, and as the dates went through, we had more and more come in. So we had 16 opt-outs in math, which didn't do us any favors. And the majority of those were 11th graders who know that they don't have that as a graduation requirement anymore.
And also with the opt-outs, those are the ones that officially sent something saying they were going to opt out. They still count against our participation. But you'll notice that we've got 180 that are still testable and only 155 that showed up for reading. So there are just 25 that didn't tell us they were opting out, they just didn't show.
And in math, aside from the 16 opt-outs, we had 19 no-shows for math out of the 11th graders.
Yeah, just 11th grade. It was,
That's a tough.
Any other question, Mike?
No, I appreciate all the hard work that it takes to coordinate this. I can't imagine on a statewide basis. Appreciate your hard work. I hope with the reorganization of MNVA and a person to be named later to head up this task, that all that what you've learned in the last couple of years has been documented. I know things change, Pearson changes, the state changes, but documenting those things that for next time around, I'm sure you're doing it. I hope you're doing that to pass it on.
Yeah, we have a testing manual that's posted within our operations manual.
And it's just, we need to look at all of that because, you know, John's time was eaten up, but Lisa's time was even, as he alluded to, was even more taxed during this entire session. So, and both John and Lisa have other things that they have assigned as far as duties, and everything took a backseat during testing.
Gary, are you done, Mike?
I'm done.
Nothing for you, Gary? Okay, the only thing I'd like to ask is, I appreciate all the work, but when you guys are sending out the notifications on the dates, are you also sending out the makeup dates at the same time?
No.
And
Yeah,
where
I
they're
thought
gonna be
about
at?
that too.
The reason I say that, because some people may say, well, you know, we either suck it up and get there this day, or now we're looking at going farther away, because John had mentioned it was farther away and, you know, the locations may not be. Are you giving them that knowledge so they kind of can look at it and say, well, let's just do it?
No, and there's a few reasons for that. The makeup days sites really weren't further when the grand scheme of things. Our main sites were, we had the metro sites and then Duluth and and then for our metro makeups, we used the same sites that we used initially. So there may have been a few students who were a few miles, but nobody went more than 35 to 45 miles to get to their site. And then as they didn't show up, we went closer and closer to them. So if they missed the first day of makeups, we brought it in and we called and we'd bring them to their library or somewhere within their city. So
You try to accommodate them.
Right,
Okay.
but when you schedule the initials, we didn't, publicize the makeups right away, because then you don't know how many you're gonna get at either time.
Right.
And we have to pay for rooms based on sizes, numbers of seats and things like that, so
Okay.
it's really hard to plan that way.
Okay, I missed it. I thought maybe they were, the way John was saying it sounded like it was even more difficult or farther away for them to go to.
It was more difficult for us.
You know,
It's
so,
really
okay.
harder for us. And something else that we did different this year, we couldn't use any computer labs this year. Last year, we used technical college labs, and because of the state requirements on tracking which computer was used by which student on which day at which time, we had to get all of our own. So renting from K-12, in addition to our computers that we've refurbished, we had to plan for those numbers as well.
Oh, it just kind of a silly question. You mentioned, and well, everybody's mentioned the time, just in the reading. You set up to 4 hours they have slotted. Do they feel like a 4-hour test is good and it's going to get them the information that they need?
Oh, the state of Minnesota?
I'm just asking the question. I mean, to me, can't they get the information in an hour and a half test? 4 hours? Collectively, you're looking at 8 hours of testing or more for these students. Is that a realistic? To me, for me to test, if I sat down and took a 4-hour test, you'd lose me about 20 minutes into it. But, you would lose me somewhere along that 8-hour period of time. I wouldn't think that they're actually getting any good results, just my opinion.
To get through all the
to get through all of
tests.
that. But is it necessary to do all of that to capture what they want to get out of it? You know what I mean, Corinne?
Yeah, but legislatively, they have to
I'm
test
talking
according to the...
educational wise.
Oh,
I'm not talking,
educationally, no,
you know.
it makes no sense at all, but legislatively, this is what we have to do.
And they're setting it up, like Rick, they're breaking it down.
Yeah.
And they, at the state level, an online school is not on their radar.
Yeah. But I see these guys are breaking it, to me, if they're breaking it down to where it's 4 days to do this, just for the accommodate the kids, so they can comprehend it and, get something out of it, that makes sense. But when you're saying, okay, kid, drive, an hour to this test, sit down and spend 4 hours to take a test, and come back tomorrow and do another 4 hours of testing, I'd be pretty prone to thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like we're getting a lot out of the kids in a 4-hour test.
But I also don't want to ask the parents to drive multiple days, because
No.
a lot, our parents.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It seems to me like the state is asking for a lot for
Yes,
these kids to do. And, they're wanting to get 95% participation, but it's not a give and take situation. They need to look at it. And like you said, Kevin, it's an online program, and that's the way of the world. And we've been around for, 10 years? We need to really take it serious.
Yeah.
But anyway.
What was was that specific legislation that was put in place to keep us from using labs? Or what was the point in, making, or in that now we can't use computer labs?
because of Pearson snafu.
Because of last year, yeah, we couldn't necessarily track back to the computer. So if on the May 21st last year, or whatever, April 21st last year when it crashed, we couldn't go back to the specific computer, to the specific student to do the upload. So it was a much more complicated process for lost data.
Because they basically said, go back into the C drive of your computer. Well, in metro schools, if they were using a laptop lab and it didn't upload and it was just a lab, the metro schools even were crying foul, saying, how in the world are we going to know what computer they use to go back in? And they basically told the metro schools the same thing they told us. Go back into every computer and look in the C drive and see what's there. And so that this year, to make sure that they don't get the same, what are you talking about, comment, they said that you needed to make sure you had every computer tracked and know exactly which student tested on which computer, on which day. So if Pearson did crash again, we would instantly know which computer and which C drive to look for this particular student.
Okay. Again, I thank you for all you guys' hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Not only in
Thank you,
online,
John.
but brick and mortar, I know that takes a lot of time too. So. Okay. Thanks, guys. Paid lunch.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, John.
Gwen?
Paid lunch equity is a calculation that's required by USDA to determine if you're charging enough for lunches. You have to charge enough for a paid lunch to be the same amount that you get reimbursed from the federal government for free and reduced lunch. So there's a spreadsheet that you go through and calculate, and according to that spreadsheet, you do not have to raise prices this year. So that is the recommendation, is to not raise lunch prices. If you're looking at this page here, the 270 is what we would be required to charge. 241 is our weighted average that we charge. But because they allow non-federal sources to be included in making up that difference, we are able to use state lunch and breakfast aid to go towards that increase. And so that's what we're doing
When do we set lunch fees, or
here. Pardon?
are we doing that at this meeting, or do we do that in a?
This is just a discussion item, and then I guess there would be no action if we're not increasing prices.
But it would be at the June, so it's
Take
It's at
action.
the June meeting.
so it can be in handbooks.
Okay, and so what is the cost of the lunches currently?
$2.55 at the high school, $2.30 at the elementary.
And 273 is where we,
$2.70 is where I'm required
required to be, so you make up the difference with that other money,
Yeah.
The state money.
the state
So we have
funds.
state money of 15,975 that we can count from 2011, 12 through 2016.
Oh, okay.
In order to make up this 29-cent difference, that is the difference between the 270 and the 241, we would have to make up 8,827, so that comes out of 15,000.
What happens to the rest of that 15,000? That just stays
That
in?
carries forward then, the difference.
Oh, okay.
And then we can use that in other years. If we choose to increase, the most we can increase at one time is 10 cents. So, since we increased prices last year, we're not going to increase them again this year.
And then maybe look at it next year to,
Yep.
just to stay.
How is the lunch participation going, Mr. Barnes?
No change.
Good?
How about for you, Todd? Good? Same as last year? Next question would be, are they paying, right?
No,
Not all, and we're taking care of that. I know that was a concern last year. We brought it up because we had some people that were out there a little bit.
We're working on it.
Okay. Well, I know we put
Is
something
it
in
better?
place.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure of that.
Since it's brought up, is it better than, we instituted a new policy, so has it gotten better? You know, in terms of payment?
Gwen, you would know probably more than them guys,
We're working
correct?
on it.
We're working on it. Okay.
Well, it's just a concern.
Work in progress.
Okay. So noted. Okay, any other questions? Thanks, Gwen. Long-term facility maintenance update.
We met with the Envirobate people on Monday and with Winona Controls. This map in pink is the map we were given late last week. And so after many emails back and forth, because this wasn't the first map, this was the final map though, you'll note that there are hallways that are pink, which means we can't, in our abatement zone, we can't store anything there that is not secured to the floor or the wall. Which means in the elementary school, because the abatement zones are built in the classrooms before the first light fixture, and in this, it's just one big zone, we're going to have to actually move more things out of our high school building than we will out of the elementary building. So we can't store anything in the hallways. We can't, all the library books, as you see boxes behind you, all the library books are coming out. All the tables, all the chairs. Nothing can just be bagged in a room in the elementary school. That's acceptable here because it's all one zone. It's not. We're doing that as a cost savings measure too, because if every room were an abatement zone, every room would need to have air quality control testing. So this way, with one zone, we can do one test for 700 instead of having 7 tests at 700 apiece. That would be 4,900 for every air quality test we need to do, and there are about 3 that need to be done during this project. So
Where's all this stuff gonna go?
that's what we're talking about on in new business under B.
Old business?
New business.
New business.
B. It's on
Oh,
the
got it.
backside.
Oh, I must be looking at it wrong.
And it's, since the teachers, we're going to be talking about it, but since the teachers at the high school are actually going to have to pack up more than the teachers at the elementary, it's the only way to really get this done is to have school end June 1st at noon and give the teachers that extra day to be packing and to move. The Envirobate people did allow us to flip-flop the choir room. If you look at the map, the choir room abatement, so the choir room is its own separate little piece. The pink piece here by the gym. They're allowing us to start that June 6th and then start the East Wing June 8th, which gives us the custodial staff Monday and Tuesday after graduation to move the big things and the tables and the chairs. But then all the different boxes, as an example, we've got Marty Momsen, who was starting to pack, but he said, this box has $1,000 worth of equipment with it. I want to move it myself. And I get that, because it's the stuff they need to teach. So that one kind of threw us for a loop last week. But Winona Controls and Envirobate met on Monday and made sure that each side knows exactly what they're working on and where they can get in and where the other people are working. So UNESCO's doing a very nice job of making sure that there's communication with all the different groups coming in. But that's, the 23rd is when everyone just starts crawling on the elementary building. And it's taken a lot of planning, but hopefully with the extra planning, it will go off smoothly. I know that elementary staff has been wonderful about making the plans, and we've got absolutely everything written down for next week. The communication's gone out. We've got lunches planned. We know exactly how it's getting transported, when it's getting transported, and what's getting transported. All of that is taken care of.
Is there any questions? Lidgren? Thank you. Old business, items for discussion and approval. First thing I'm assuming you want to approve would be the MNBA trip. Go motion.
So moved.
Second. Second by Gary. Discussion?
I thought it was very well presented. I thought she did a great job, and I think she goes the extra mile for those kids. So.
What about, I think we had the option of whether it would be in the school year or not in the school year. I mean, is your motion whenever she wants it, or?
Okay. No, I think we had discussion on that. I think the general feeling was to go after.
Yeah, I agree. I just
yeah.
didn't know if that's what was on the table, or if.
No, I can put it on the table.
I
That's
don't.
fine. That was my intent.
Okay.
So we have a motion to approve the MNBA school trip to Europe after school. Any other discussion item? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. I will let you know.
And then we have a motion on the 18-inch concrete apron for the high school building.
So moved.
A motion to approve. Or a second? Second. Second by Joe. Discussion?
Did you get more information from
Yes.
the company and you feel comfortable with them?
Comfortable with what the company provided, yes. We still have some other information that we need to be getting as far as, we know we need to do the 8-inch apron, or 18-inch apron. It's 4 inches thick, and there is it should be in your packet.
Yeah, they're doing a gravel base with rebar, and that was one of the questions
Right.
for Gary, and they're gonna make some cuts every 20 inches to make sure that there's no cracking, movement, that type of thing,
Right, and then they'll caulk above the expansion joint.
just to make sure it's all.
We just have,
It was spec'd out a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's spec'd out. We had a little field trip today, so.
and so we looked at it, and we just have to make sure, I will contact and make sure it is sloped correctly, so it does slope away from the building. Did that make it into your packet or not? Yeah, there.
Okay.
So yeah, there was some more information there, yeah.
It wasn't a bad price at all for this. I was expecting it to be a great deal more.
It is.
Yeah, it is 7.
Yeah, I didn't get that document. That's the same price that we looked at last
Yes.
meeting, right?
Yeah, we just didn't have the breakdown that
Right.
we were looking for, and we talked about it at the
I hope that was.
facility meeting,
Yeah.
you know, to
And
make
you-
sure, yeah.
And this is the same company that did the asphalt in the teardrop, and they were very good to work with.
So, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then on the FY16 adjusted budget, I know we talked about that last meeting. I don't know that anybody had any questions, so we have a motion to approve the adjusted budget.
So moved.
Second.
Second by me. Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Program reduction, MNBA, the Chinese course we talked about last meeting, I should say, whatever that was, like last week or yesterday.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Discussion?
Too bad, but.
Yeah, it's a loss.
Had
It's
a
too bad.
discussion on it last week, and that's what you gotta do sometimes.
Yeah. We're gonna add them to the track classes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Another thing we were talking about last week is a new position, full-time payroll clerk and part-time HR/ACA officer. We have a motion to approve that new position.
I just need clarification on what is the current position?
The current position is, Marcia's job is all of this.
So we're gonna post for 2 separate things then, since we have 2.
We need to, we'll just be posting for the payroll clerk, and Marcia will be moving into the part-time position.
Wouldn't you technically have to post for 2 new positions?
We post for the 2 new positions, and then we fill internally on the part-time.
So was there a
Or on
time?
full-time?
Yeah.
Was there a
Or
time
as
frame?
qualified.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, it's separating out, delegating out some duties into 2 separate
Yeah.
positions. So I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
Was there a time frame when the part-time would go away?
I know it was brought up at the finance meeting.
Right.
Oh, it
We were
was.
talking on 18.
18. January of 2018 is what I think.
Yeah,
it is.
that January 2018, then we look at how ACA
Is
has,
reviewed at that time?
we reevaluate at that time to see what the ACA requirements are at that point, to see if if it has gotten easier, that they just keep adding stuff,
Or
so.
if some of that changes, because we were talking about utilizing technology or
Right.
maybe outsourcing it, or look at other avenues that may be a cost savings.
Right, so January 2018 is when we reevaluate whether it can morph back into one again.
So does that become part of the posting? You're
The,
posting for a position, an HR/ACA officer, limited time to whatever date. I mean, you just
That
put
would be a
that right out.
part-time position,
I know,
not the,
I know, but we're
Payroll
still,
clerk.
the
I
payroll
don't think it
clerk
would hurt
be.
to put it in there.
I just think it cleans it
Yeah,
up
I
at
think that's
the
a good
get-go,
idea.
and then if we reauthorize, or we just do, we just know the date, and the person filling that position internally or externally also knows.
No, it's a good idea. I know it was brought up
I
in
don't
the
know if
meeting,
it can
so.
or can't be done, I'm just asking.
Right now, I just know the way the job is and the duties, it's not a one-person job.
I know, but I'm
When we
hearing
talk
things
about
from
the
finance
part-time,
committee
we're
about
talking
a time,
having
a limited
note.
time.
As far as on the contract for the part-time HR/ACA person, a note in the contract that states that this position will be reevaluated or revisited to determine whether we're gonna keep it as a part-time position or what we're gonna do with it.
So you want that in the posting?
Well, that's what Mike Lean was talking about, to make sure it's clean, so the person that takes that job understands that, we're gonna re-look at this, if we need the person there yet or not.
Well,
That
correct?
person would
Well-
probably be Marcia.
Correct.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to separate position, I'm not trying to think about, I mean, it's just, once we approve a new position, it's an ongoing position as far as the budget is concerned, unless we have a limited time on it.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
And with every contract negotiation, we can reevaluate any position.
Yeah.
It's a little harder to cut a position that's been an ongoing position.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Unless you I don't know, I'm not trying to make it difficult, I'm trying to make it a proactive decision in the future instead of a decision to cut something. We're gonna continue it, and we're gonna reevaluate it. And that would mean that the payroll clerk would have to have under their job duties, other duties as assigned, because Marcia's been doing all of these things.
Because I thought it was originally brought up, like, it would be, this person would come in and work with Marcia, and then that position would go away. That's the way I understood it.
Marcia's position.
The part-time position would then go away after a while. After she retired, it would maybe go away or something like that.
If we could get the automation done to see if that does make the job more able to be done. But if I need to clarify, when Region 5 came in and did the analysis, they said we were understaffed by 2 full people in the district office. And I know that we looked into it. There is not a way that we farm things out. It does not save money. It would not, it would not be expedient.
No, we were saying that, I think it was brought up originally that this person would come in and work with Marcia to understand her job, kind of document her procedures and processes, and possibly find ways to, using technology to make it easier to do or something like that. And I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, but it'd be reevaluated after that. So.
And again, it may go one way or the other. I mean, this part-time position, you're telling us that you're 2 people short, and you also mentioned that things could change. So the position, no, but what I'm getting at is you have the payroll clerk, that we already know that's a full-time position, and this one, Marcia, is one we're looking at. The part-time job is what we're looking at, maybe hopefully can streamline and they marry back together again down the road. Now, if that changes where the HR/ACA job becomes larger and we reevaluate that in 2018, it may be where we look at it and say, hey, no, we need to make this not a part-time job, but we're looking for somebody to replace. This may be another full-time job by then. We don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
But I think what Joe is trying to get at, and Mimi and Michael Lean, what we talked about is have a date that we can revisit it. So it's part-time at this time until that time, and then we reevaluate to determine what we need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe
know,
it's not 18, maybe it's when Marcia decides she wants to retire. At that
We don't
time.
know. But like I think Michael Lean was saying, we want to let that person know that in 2018, we're going to revisit this and make a determination at that time. Being clear and, you have the understanding that at that time, we may have to look at this again and see what we're going to do with that position.
Has that been part of the conversation with Marcia?
Marcia just knows that she needs to reduce her workload. And we also used to have an HR director here. And now not having an HR director anymore, Marcia basically took most of those duties on. So she has been taking on extra duties since getting hired here. So she's taken on more than.
So basically, and I appreciate that. I mean, I understand that and I appreciate that. And I think what I'm hearing is that we just want to be able to relook at this position. We don't want it just to go away and go on forever and not think about it. We want to look at this in either when Marcia retires or 2018.
Correct.
And and assess for growth or not, or, you know,
Right.
so we just want to relook at it.
Like Mike Lane, it's
So,
nice to have.
How do
a
we do
date
that?
Out there.
Can we just put it in the motion, you put it on your calendar, that this is something that's got to come before the board in 2018 or when Marcia retires, and I don't think you want to put it on the posting.
Well, it's like hiring a, you know, a temporary, a teacher to fill in for somebody who's on maternity leave. They know it's a limited term position.
Mhm.
I just-
Can I say something? The payroll clerk isn't unlimited time. The
No, it wouldn't be
payroll
that
clerk would be
position.
hired as a full-time
Oh, yeah, that is,
Exactly.
correct, correct.
That's
We're
not
talking
the one
about
we're
that
talking
position.
about.
We're talking
Alright.
about the HR
So-
/ ACA.
We aren't hiring a temporary position to put it in the posting. We
But,
wouldn't have to
but
let
I'm hearing that the
person know.
No, it
committee
wouldn't be that
discussed
person, it
a
would be
limited term,
Marcia's
so I'm
position.
confused.
The position Marcia's going
We would have
into.
to let them know that there could possibly be more duties, but that's a possibility with any job you get.
But we're just
There's
wondering
no-
about Marcia's position that she
Marcia
goes
would
into.
know
Do
it.
we wanna, don't we wanna let
She's here
Marcia
for the
know that
conversation.
we're gonna
We
revisit
should just be
this?
talking about positions,
Well,
not
Marcia's
people.
will be
Just
gone
clean the positions.
Anyway, because she's retired.
Right.
So even if we revisit it, she probably won't be here to revisit it.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
But we will,
Yeah.
We will.
and maybe it'll be a full-time
No,
position.
I'm just explaining for the posting.
Mhm.
There's no need to put it in the posting because you're not hiring a temporary position. You're hiring a full-time position.
So Marcia's
hiring
going
two
part-time.
Ongoing position.
Right.
Well, the posting for the part-time,
Will be posted internally.
But it's still
I think we all want the
position.
same thing, we just wanna make sure that.
We can't find a
Marcia's aware.
mechanism.
You know what I mean? As long as Marcia's aware of what we're talking about, which I think she already knows. So, and we make a note in the minutes that says we're gonna revisit this, whether Marcia retires in a year and a half or retires at 2018 or whatever happens. Because then we have to look at this position again. If we make it another full-time position, then we create another job, full-time job.
And that's not what's needed. We
Not at this
just need-
moment.
No,
But down the
Not at this
road, it
time.
may be.
yeah, not at this time.
Correct, not this time. However, we have to do that, just make, we should have something written. So,
And I suppose
Do we
none
have-
of this is covered by the online budget, is that right?
And the program budget only covers things that are 100% dedicated to the online,
And there's no way to manipulate that?
not the way the contract's written.
good thinking. Okay, so again, do we have a motion to approve the new postings? Maybe we had a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay, Kevin, have a second?
Second.
Joe? Further discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Policies for second reading, 902 and 903.
Motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe, discussion items, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. New business, items for discussion and approval, policies for first reading.
Policies 727 and 728 are policies that were created by HVED. They are not policies that Minnesota School Board Association has. However, they are policies that we need to have on record for federal requirements with special education funding. Policy 713 is MSBA policy. However, this is a policy that is vastly different than the way we actually do accounting. And we have a question in to Kim and Bradley from the accounting firm to see if this is a policy we want to actually put in. And so we'll get those answers, but it's one of those, we need to have some policy about student activity accounting. If it's not, if this policy is vastly different, one thing, it takes the co-curricular activities and puts them under the governance of the board, where the extracurricular activities are under the student activity account, which means that we couldn't do band and choir things through the student activity account anymore, which would really muck things up for us and how we do things in the office. So we're looking into that one. So next week for the second read, that one might be pulled, and there might be a different student accounting policy for a first read. But we're getting the guidance, and we didn't want to, we were waiting and we didn't get a response, and so we've got it on here just kind of to cover ourselves.
Okay. Any questions?
These are all 3 brand-new policies. I think it would have been appropriate to have a policy committee meeting to discuss these. I mean, we can read over them, but I do want to understand these. There are questions, I mean, with HVED proposing these, has the language in 727 and 728 come from an attorney's office? Is HVED backing it with attorneys? And why doesn't MSBA have policies like this if this is tied to financial revenues and sources? There are questions I think we should be thoughtful about instead of just adopting.
And those are, and I can, in my Friday update, I can address all those, because all those questions have been raised already to the people at HVED. There have been policy meetings since the beginning of the year, because we're going through the audit next year. So all of this is in preparation of that audit. This same type of policy writing happened. The last audit was, when was it, 2012? 2012, when we had some other policies that went through because of the audit that was going into place. And so as they're looking at it, these are policies that are expected to be active.
Right, but I think what Mike, if I heard her correctly, is saying they're new policies, and so maybe the policy committee should look at them before the board acts on them, so that
Make
they
sure
understand them. That's
right.
the role of the policy
Correct.
committee. Am I correct?
Well, that's what I.
Yeah.
So
So you guys haven't had a
So I
meeting
think they
yet.
should
No.
convene and take a look at them.
Well, would a policy meeting next Tuesday work?
It would work for me.
You going to Europe again?
Because by then we should have, either Kim or Bradley will have responded to our question about policy 713 by then.
Does that work for you?
No,
No,
no. Any other day that week would work.
but not Tuesday.
Right.
What?
I can, if I know when, I can probably. make it
Wednesday?
happen.
Wednesday,
Wednesday work for you, Michael?
okay. You have that in?
Well, I have a noon meeting, I think. When do we have our meetings? I think Wednesdays or Thursdays with Angela.
Because they're new, I don't have that in my head yet.
I don't
think
either.
they're on
So I have a
Wednesdays
noon
at
meeting one of
1:00.
those days as
Okay.
part of the
Okay,
3-year review thing. That's the only, my commitment.
okay.
Are you going to be in town for that,
Yeah.
Michael? Would it be?
Well, we-
I can fit it in.
So
But
Ron is
as
probably
soon
free
as-
more all day, so if
Yeah.
you're done at 1. Just joking.
Wednesday is fine, not
Pick
over
a
the lunch
time,
hour.
if you want to make it after your meeting or before your other one, that's fine.
I'm fine
Fine.
anytime. That's good
Okay,
for you.
okay. Maybe Wednesday at 2, does that work?
2:00.
Okay, moving right along. Early year-end Dismissal for Houston High School.
And this is, it
Brought
was
up
discussed in
tonight.
the discussion. This would cut one full day. So if they got out at noon or after lunch on June 1st, they would still be in school on Tuesday and then half the day on Wednesday. So that second half on Tuesday, they could do finals in the afternoon and finals then Wednesday morning. So there wouldn't be much change to the schedule. It would just be that last day of each class, one day of each class that would be reduced.
So we're approving this tonight?
We need to get the information out to parents, we need to get the information
No, I
out to
just want to make
teachers.
sure everybody knows that we're going to approve.
So when I was in school, and I don't know what the rules are, I probably know what the rules are with this, but when I was in school, when we had something like this, or when there was a flood in town, like, the kids helped. Like, they came in and moved tables and chairs and packed sands and,
That was
and,
back
you know,
in them days.
but that was, is there rules against that? I mean, can we have the kids come to school and help move stuff? I mean, we have all of this work to do, and we
That's child
have
labor,
quite a
that's not
workforce. And we're saying, don't come. I just, I mean, I don't want to make the kids do it, but, you know, if there are some kids that would love to come and
There are
help.
service hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, if they want to come for service hours, yes, we can put them to work with things with which that I am not going to have the entire chemical room has to get cleaned out. I'm not gonna let any kids
Well,
into the
common
chemical
sense.
room.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
Common
if you're
sense,
in
that's
math,
good input.
this is your math time. Okay, today we're gonna work on, you know, here's all the math books, and so they can help. I mean, they could even go to their classes and help a bit. So just food for thought. I kind of hate to see us send the kids home when we have all of this work to do, and then say, teachers, you do it all. You know, when a lot of it, like packing these library books, I think kids could probably do that.
No,
No, they can't.
no, Cindy Flanton wants to, in fact, I asked her if she
There
wanted
are certain
somebody.
kids that like that sort of thing and would be able to do it.
They have an order.
They have an order, and I asked Cindy if she wanted somebody else, because when
So-
we're coming up with the other time for other people, she wants to do it herself, so she knows where everything is and everything is labeled. And that's, if a student wants to come in for a service hour, great, but I'm, as far as packing things, if I would
So you're
tell
saying-
Mr. Momsen to say, let the kids pack up all the equipment, I think the man would have a heart attack.
So we could offer service hours to kids if they wanted to come in and help. But what we're looking at is for the whole overall school to move from the second to the first half day.
Right.
Is what we're looking for.
No decline in revenue.
No.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Michael. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second from Joe. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Perfect. Announcements? Morning events? Are there any? Okay.
Other
No.
than I was hoping to talk about the year-end picnic, but due to inclement weather, the K-5 picnic for MNVA had to be canceled. There is the middle school picnic coming up on the 24th. That's right during the week of all the moving for the elementary kids here, so I didn't feel I could take off
So the 24th is middle school.
the middle school, but if any of you wanted to go
Where's
up.
that at?
It's up in, is that one in Bloomington? I can get you the
Just maybe
information
put
if
it
you
on
want.
your minutes.
Yep,
You did send it out
Yeah,
in
if you
two
send that out,
board
I might
updates ago.
Yeah.
It was,
be up there.
yep, I will resend, thank you.
Meeting and committee updates?
Facility committee, you can,
Facility committee? Great.
Well, we talked about the apron, of course, and let's see.
Dust collector.
Yeah, the relocation of the dust collector, just gonna move it to basically the other side of the big door. and we talked about the possibility of cementing out from the existing slab all the way to the end of the building rather than just having one little slab for the dust collector. Whose idea was that?
Yeah, Gary's. No, Todd's. We give Todd credit. It's gonna cost us more money, but we figured we'd price it out. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the doorway is back here by the shop. There's like what is it, about an 8-foot section that wouldn't be concreted then. So we thought, well, if they're gonna be here, maybe ask them what it would cost to do the whole spot instead of concrete, 8 feet, dirt, concrete. So, because they utilize that area, Todd was saying, for work out there sometimes, whether it be on building stuff or whatever. So, we figured since they're gonna have to pour the concrete slab for the dust collector anyway, it's a lot of times, it's a lot cheaper just to have them pour that extra piece in there at that time. So, I'm assuming we'll be getting a quote on that, correct?
Yes.
So, and anything else?
No, that was about it. The portable storage container, it was decided we don't need it.
No, because we can use classrooms here. So, but it's just just like Rick had to come up with a whole plan on where everything's going, where everybody's going. Now Todd gets to do his own plan on which rooms are going to be consolidated together and which teachers are going to be sharing classrooms as far as storage space over the summer.
So that's the only meeting update that I know of. Is there anybody have any questions on the facility projects?
I wanted to ask a question, and I guess maybe it goes under meeting and committee updates. A long time ago, and it's been a while since we've had openings, but we said, I don't know if you guys remember, do we used to have an HR committee a long time ago? But then we said, well, we would only want to get involved with like the leadership team and the hiring of the leadership team. And we now have 2 positions because we have a tech person and an assistant principal. So I'm just wondering if, you know, what we want our board involvement to be, because they're key people in the school district. You know, what are we gonna, how does the board want to get involved in that? Because we don't have an official HR, and I know some of this stuff's been coming to finance, and I don't know that that's the right committee to handle some of these things. I mean, especially the high-level ones. You know, do we want to sit in on an interview? We've had issues in the past, many years ago. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so we said we need to have some sort of board involvement in those key positions.
Or we should sit down and try to come up.
So we've had 25 applicants for the AP, the assistant principal position. So.
See, I didn't even know it was posted.
I didn't either. And it would have been I didn't either.
So, but I mean, it's a key I mean, we tend to keep people for a long time in those positions, so I think we really want to make sure we get the right person in that position. And we have a wide variety of people on the board. And I told you that with tech too. I mean, we have some good tech people and some good business people on the board, and they should be sitting in on those interviews.
What is the process that right now in place for this? Is it you interview them, you just hire them, it goes to you, and you hire them, comes to us after the fact for board approval, basically, right?
There's an interview committee.
Right.
And the interview committee is, well, it changes by the position.
So like
for the assistant principal, who's part of the
who would be on the committee?
The assistant principal, that would be Angela, John, and I would be on the committee.
Could we have a board, maybe if we just put a board member or 2 on the committee, then that would get enough board involvement, or, I don't know. And I know it's not an agenda item, we don't need, I mean, I don't know that I just wanted to bring it up because it's been a long time since we've had some of those positions open, so.
I personally don't think it's appropriate for us to sit on those committees. However, I would like more information. I would have liked to have known that it was posted. I'd like to hear every time we hire, how many applicants? How many applicants did you get? The committee reviewed this many applicants, this many were called for interviews, and the best one is presented to you for hiring. So you have some idea
Where we're at in the process.
where we are in the process. But I've been on the board in the past where we did interviews and hiring, and it's not where a board member should be unless it's hiring
No,
a
I think
position.
the
That's my
information I think is
position.
good.
Well, we said in the past it was with the leadership team that we wanted that.
I know, but I don't even think that's
Well,
what
we
you
ended
hired
up in the
this-
past hiring somebody, we didn't even know how to job at a different location, and that was the issue, is that we had no involvement, and it was an issue. We didn't
But
know.
more information, gives you some of that, may give you some idea,
Some background.
some
on the
background,
person.
whatever.
Yeah, I think when the recommendation comes in, that should be a full disclosure on, when that committee does the interviews and comes up with their recommendation to the board for the hire, then that has to be a very comprehensive piece, so we can look at that.
Because we've already, now it's basically they're already hired.
Yeah, they're already in the job.
Right.
By the time we get it.
You're not gonna reverse that.
But I think you're right, I think we need, as those key positions, it'd be nice to know where we're at with them.
Those should be approved before they start on the
Right.
job.
Yeah.
To hire somebody, so by the way, 2 weeks ago, we hired this person, and they were working for 2 weeks, everything's going well. I think we'd be, as a board, and what I'm getting from the board is to be more comfortable having, like what you just said, you kind of saw the deer in the headlight looks here from some of us, that you had 25 people apply for this job. Okay.
Well,
That's
when we got that,
positive.
when we
Which is
did-
good. I think that's a good thing, that you have that many people interested in that job, but the next thing is, okay, we're narrowing it down, and,
But when we,
and I'm hoping that Angela, and I know both of those people are very qualified to give you a list of what would be needed in that area.
Well, I would think that the online
Right,
schools
the online
committee ought to
schools.
have been maybe part of what are we looking for in
See, we
assistant
haven't been involved
principals.
at all, so that's why
Well, then it's, yeah.
I'm a
that-
little, it's somebody we're gonna be working with, and I'm really focused on technology as well, and I've talked to Corinne about this, and, there was mention of us being a STEM-focused school. This technology person we hire is important, and, I'd like to have some input into what that role is. I think my impression of that role is different than what Corinne's impression of that role is. And so some discussion about that, and some involvement. So, and again, with all the other things, I think it's been fine, but with these key people in the school, I'd like to have some involvement.
Before they're hired.
Before they're hired, and I don't want to sit in on 25 interviews, don't get me wrong, but I'd like to have maybe some input into what's most important to us, or a quick review
Have
of,
you guys
these are the
come up with a
3
list of what you're
finalist
looking for?
resumes, or.
That would be good.
we've got the job description. So it's,
I'd like to see it, if you don't mind.
the job
personally.
description?
Just to see, because with online committee, we just to see what they're out there. I'm assuming it's posted somewhere.
Yeah.
Would be nice to
We
know
talked
this.
about the job descriptions when we talked about the positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the anticipated timeline for that, for particularly the AD?
We're getting applications now. We're hoping to start interviews the end of May, so that the second meeting in June, it could have someone come before the board for hiring, so they could be hired for that July 1 date, hire effective July 1. Which is why to hit that timeline, we needed to post right away.
It's just kind of neat, you have 25 people apply.
Oh, there's Oklahoma, North Dakota.
Well, they all live in Houston.
Well, maybe we want to have an online,
I know.
an online committee first week in June.
It was nice.
The online committee before
You're the chair, you can call it, and call the online committee first week in June prior to the board meeting and review the process and the final finalists and whatever.
Will there be will you narrow it down to a certain amount that
Oh,
we
they
can
want to
review
by
in the
then.
meeting?
Well, yeah, that's,
The plan is to have somebody hired by July.
yeah, definitely.
That would be great if we could, it would make me feel a lot better to do that. And
So
I
we'll-
think it'd make the online committee feel better.
Before the June 7th board meeting, we'll have an online committee meeting.
Okay. And if you've got it down to 3 or whatever, yeah, that would be great, so.
Okay.
Okay, any other superintendent feedback, anything? Future agenda, we just talked about one.
Well, future agenda items, I was just wondering, I was reading legislative updates, and there's a ton of policy stuff that, do you think most of that will get thrown out, or do you think that some of that will go through?
Fred Nolan thinks most of it is gonna
Well, I
get
know, I
thrown
read
out.
that, yeah, but there's a lot of it that has
And
big
It's got
consequences.
huge ramifications, so I'm watching all of those. If, the one with the dyslexia and the eye issue, if that one goes through, we'll have to have meetings with HVED and the special ed staff to make sure that we are following that legislative language. The other one I'm watching is the civics test, and just because we've got a smaller student body here on site, we could probably do the record keeping as far as which questions they've passed and which they haven't as they migrate through the different years. But online, I'm not quite sure how we keep track to see that they have actually met their 50 out of 100 questions because they can't do the same questions again. Right now, I'm just trying to wrap my head around how we would keep track of that for each kid. So
It sounds like they're trying to push it off and push it out to committees, but I don't know how serious they are about putting it through. I don't know what you've heard.
So they're running out of time for committees.
They are running out of time.
they're running out, and
Well, put it off to committees in another year,
Oh, I
I
see.
think, for more, but
this
you
is
may-
the first time at the superintendent's meeting last Thursday. Fred Nolan was there, Gary Amoroso from MSAS, or MASA, Grace Kelleher from MSBA, and then, the guy from SEED was there. And they were all saying this, that they have never seen this many and this type of inactivity with so much, that there were so many people doing so little with so many things. And just willy-nilly allowing friendly amendments. And so we've got some policies that are really a convoluted mess because in the spirit of bipartisanship, this very right-minded policy allowed a friendly amendment from the far left, and it
So there's a lot going on, is what you're saying.
it just, right now, and that's why Fred was saying he's thinking that by the end, they'll just all kind of,
Brush it off till next year.
I've kind of.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, and if any of those do have legs and get through, then yes, I will be doing a full update and whole plan on how we will meet the challenge, because most of the policies are written so they would go into effect for the 16-17 school year.
That's what concerns
Are the
me.
majority of them, I don't want to extend this a great deal, but are the majority of them coming out of the House or the Senate? Or both? Because there was like 4,000 bills in the House.
But there's a House and a Senate version on many of them, and not very many of them are backed by the governor. Many of them are backed either by the House or by the Senate, but both the House and the Senate have their versions of.
And the two versions
So-
are miles apart.
Yeah, and so there's,
They won't get it done.
anyway.
It's, I got 5
Just
pages.
like to have updates
Yep.
on it if it happens.
Anything else, Quinn? Anybody else? Anybody?
Move we adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Conference committee to reconcile the two.